Module 4. Lesson 1. Introduction to Web Backend Development. As of January 2020, the Internet contains more than 1.7 billion websites. And counting. Web developers are the people responsible for analyzing, coding, building, and maintaining all those websites. Websites are now a critical component for any business to stay competitive. But how do you know exactly what kind of web development work to seek out and train for? Web development tends to break down into three main concentrations: front-end, back-end and full stack. Front-end developers are responsible for designing and coding a website's graphical user interface that users interact with through their computers or smartphone's browser. In order to execute those objectives, front-end developers must be adept at three main languages: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. In addition to fluency in these languages, front-end developers need to be familiar with frameworks like Bootstrap, Foundation, Backbone, Angular, and React, which ensure efficient development and great-looking content in any device, and libraries like jQuery and Less, which make easier coding in JavaScript and CSS. A lot of front-end developer job listings also call for experience with Ajax, a widely used technique for using JavaScript that lets pages dynamically load by downloading server data in the background. Using these tools, front-end developers work closely with designers or user experience analysts to bring mockups, or wireframes, from development to delivery. The back-end of a website usually consists of a server, an application and a database. In order to make all these communicate with each other, back-end developers use server-side languages like PHP, Ruby, Python, Java, Node.js and .NET to build an application, and database management systems like MySQL, Oracle, SQL Server and MongoDB to find, save, or change data and serve it back to the user in front-end code. Job openings for back-end developers often also call for experience with PHP frameworks like Laravel, Zend, Symfony, and CakePHP, experience with version control software like SVN, CVS, or Git, and experience with Linux as a development and deployment system. Overall, full-stack developers need to be able to identify both the client and server-side responsibilities of a solution and articulate the advantages and disadvantages of various solutions. Being a full-stack developer has many advantages, but it is increasingly complex. In addition to mastering HTML and CSS, a web full-stack developer should also know how to program a browser, like using JavaScript, jQuery, Angular, etc., program a server, like using PHP, ASP, Python, or Node.js, and program a database, like using SQL, SQLite, or MongoDB. There are four popular stacks for web development. The most widely used is the LAMP, which is based on JavaScript as the front-end scripting language, Linux operating system, Apache web server, MySQL database and PHP as the server-side language. Another rising stack is Mean, which is based on JavaScript on both front and back-end and includes JavaScript, MongoDB, Express Framework, AngularJS and Node.js. Finally, two stacks that worth mentioning are Django Stack and Ruby on Rails Stack. But before writing code, web developers need to collaborate with business stakeholders to understand their particular needs, then translate those into technical requirements and come up with the most effective and efficient solution. Web applications can be developed by using a great variety of approaches. But no matter the type of development you are thinking of pursuing, on top of the hard skills, soft skills are important too, like attention to detail, ability to learn quickly, ability to solve problems efficiently and strong communication skills. In current module we will focus on the essential hard skills of a back-end web developer and outline some core technologies, popular programming languages and tools. The Hypertext Transfer Protocol is an application protocol for distributed, collaborative, hypermedia information systems. HTTP is the foundation of data communication for the World Wide Web, where hypertext documents include hyperlinks to other resources that the user can easily access. HTTP functions as a request-response protocol in the client-server computing model. A web browser, for example, may be the client and an application running on a computer hosting a website may be the server. HTTP is a stateless protocol. In other words, the current request does not know what has been done in the previous requests. The client submits an HTTP request message to the server. The server, which provides resources such as HTML files and other content, or performs other functions on behalf of the client, returns a response message to the client. The response contains completion status information about the request and may also contain requested content in its message body. A web browser is an example of an HTTP client. Other types of HTTP clients include the indexing software used by search providers, like web crawlers, voice browsers, mobile apps, and other software that accesses, consumes, or displays web content. HTTP resources are identified and located on the network by uniform resource locators. Because communication is transmitted in plain text, it is unsafe, especially when using wireless networks. It is like transmitting a message with personal information on a postcard. Data, such as usernames and passwords, sent to and received by websites, are easy to read by third parties. To solve this problem, the Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure, pronounced HTTPS, was invented to provide encrypted communication and secure identification of a network web server. Most major websites, including Google, Wikipedia, and popular social networking platforms such as Facebook and Twitter, can also be reached via a secure connection, but not necessarily by default. Note that most sites do not provide encryption. HTTPS is often used to protect highly confidential online transactions like online banking and online shopping order forms. HTTPS is essentially the HTTP protocol but with data encryption using SSL or TLS. Transport Layer Security, and its now deprecated predecessor, Secure Sockets Layer, are cryptographic protocols designed to provide communications security over a computer network. The TLS protocol aims primarily to provide privacy and data integrity between two or more communicating computer applications. A web service is a collection of open protocols and standards which are widely used for exchanging data between systems or applications. Essentially, it is a server running on a computer device, listening for requests at a particular port over a network, serving machine-readable file formats such as XML and JSON, and creating web application services, which serve in solving specific domain problems over the web. In practice, a web service commonly provides an object-oriented web-based interface to a database server, utilized for example by another web application, or by a mobile app, that provides a user interface to the end user. Many organizations that provide data in formatted HTML pages will also provide the same data as XML or JSON, often through a web service to allow syndication. For example, OpenWeather offers a web API through which a developer can acquire weather information for a city and incorporate it in his website or mobile app. Web services should be implemented in various ways. The two types of widely used web services are SOAP and RESTful web services. SOAP stands for Simple Object Access Protocol and REST stands for Representational State Transfer. SOAP is a protocol which was designed before REST came into the picture. The main idea behind creating SOAP was to ensure that programs built on different platforms and programming languages could securely exchange data. REST was designed specifically for working with components such as media components, files, or even objects on a particular hardware device. Any web service which is defined on the principles of REST can be called a RESTful web service. REST uses the normal HTTP verbs of GET, POST, PUT and DELETE for working with the required components. Since SOAP is a protocol, it follows a strict standard to allow communication between the client and the server, whereas REST is an architectural style that doesn't follow any strict standard, but follows 6 basic constraints: uniform interface, client-server, stateless, cacheable, layered system and code on demand. SOAP uses only XML for exchanging information in its message format, whereas REST is not restricted to XML and the developer can choose which format to use, like XML, JSON or even plain text. Moreover, SOAP is difficult to implement, and it requires more bandwidth, whereas REST is easy to implement and requires less bandwidth, that it is preferable for mobile apps. On the other hand, SOAP is better suited for applications that require transactionability and high security. At the back end on the server, is where it all comes together. There are many flavors to back-end development, as there are many programming languages, frameworks and different server software that you can work with, unlike front-end development where you work with a limited set of languages and libraries. What you can do at the back end of a web server is limited only to your abilities. Actually, all programming languages can be used at the back end. However, Some of them are more popular because of their characteristics and their large support communities, making them easy for most people to learn and work with. These programming languages often run on frameworks that simplify the web development process. I will briefly introduce you to the 5 most popular server-side programming languages to help you decide which one to learn based on your needs and preferences. PHP is by far the most used server-side language. 80% of websites use PHP as the backend language. PHP is maintained by a very active open-source community. The reason is that it was the first programming language that was designed for the web. It is used for the WordPress platform, which powers 25% of websites today, including most popular blogs and news sites. The main advantages of PHP is that it is very widely used, simple and easy to learn, while it is designed especially for web backend development. There is a huge number of PHP frameworks that you can use. For beginners, I would recommend Laravel. Python is one of the best programming languages for beginners, not just for web development, but also to learn to program. It is a language that is clear and easy to read syntax that makes it easier to focus less on syntax and more on learning to program. Another important advantage of Python is its great collection of artificial intelligence and analytics libraries. The most famous Python web framework is Django, but for beginners I would recommend Flask. Ruby is mostly popular for small applications as it is suitable for rapid web development. Ruby on Rails is the most popular framework to use with Ruby, and while it has a slightly long learning curve, it is still one of the most robust web frameworks. Ruby is an object-oriented scripting language, and Ruby's code is simple and expansive, which makes it easy to use even for complex development projects. It is a latecomer compared to some of the other languages and became popular more recently, starting 2010s. Java has had a good reputation as a multi-purpose programming language. Java is used for desktop, web and Android development. However, development with Java can be over-engineering, and development time can take considerably longer than other languages. It's worthy of a mention as it is prevalent for large-scale application, but you should consider other programming languages for smaller applications. Many large enterprise applications such as those in banking and insurance use it to communicate with other systems such as mainframes. It is powerful in terms of scalability and performance. Spring Framework makes building Java web applications fast and hassle-free, and I recommend using it if Java is your choice. Node.js is the newest in the list, released in 2009, and the quickest growing today. It provides the ability to run JavaScript code on the server side. The point is that web developers do not have to learn a new language for back-end development. They can use JavaScript for both front-end and back-end programming. One thing that Node.js does very well compared to most other languages is real-time applications. Therefore, if you are developing something that requires to work in real time such as chats or games, then Node.js is a good choice. As it is also newer than the other languages, it comes with some handy and modern features that are lacking in older programming languages that make development smoother. In February 2020, these are the 5 most popular programming languages along with frameworks for web development that you can explore. Your choice wouldn't matter at the start as you'll learn a lot about programming whichever you choose. All of them has proved to work with many popular websites built on them. There are a lot of online training resources like tutorials and videos that can help you. Therefore, pick anyone that you like and might better suit your needs, and have fun learning.